Welcome once more. I am the database guy. Glad you could join me. Uh, we're at video 7, presentation 9 being, of course, our VBA basic coding coursework. And I may have had something like 6p in the previous video, so disregard what it was there. I'm sorry, I must have hit the letter while I was in there. So we're here, we're in basic. We've gone through all this. And we're now going to be at this GoTo GoSub statements, which is really what the crux of this coursework is about. I want to go back to something you saw a GoTo in the previous work, and we did. And let's see. I know it's here. Where are you? Nope. Nope. There it is. In the when. So what you saw here was GoTo exit while when loop. It went there and it ended. So it appeared as if it ended the function by doing that. And I want to run this again just to confirm it did end it at 4, right? So when it got to 5, it said go to that exit when loop, and then you went there, and then it ended it, or so we thought. So let's run it again, but we're going to put a debug print I in that. Reason why I want to do this is I want to illustrate that it actually, and you can see number 5 showing up. It's actually running code that's in here or under here. All right. Um, so what happens if we never get there? Let's put a number in that we'll never hit, 15. Obviously, we're 1 to 10, so we're never going to get to 15 to go to the exit while when. So if we do that, we go, as you can see here, up to 9. Well, wait a second. We were supposed to be at 10. How did we get this number? How is that even possible? Let's comment out the debug for a minute. Yeah. And now we're at 9. So here's something interesting. That whether it ever hits the code or not, and let's go back and show it to you again. We'll uncomment it and run it. It's going to run that code. So your question would be, and of course mine would, we don't want it to run the code all the time, only when we have that condition met. So you need a statement in there. Depending upon whether you're in a subroutine or a function, that statement will vary. And it's exit, in this case, function. If it were a subroutine, it would be exit subroutine. So I'm going to leave that code in there, just like that. Now, what happens here is, after it runs through the when loop, it then hits the exit function and it's all over. It's gone. And you see no debug print I at all, right? So to show you that that actually, in fact, does work, bring back the 5. Now it will exit at 5, and we should get 0 through 4 plus a 5. And we do. So whenever you have a statement like this, and in the previous example, we didn't need to have this exit function, because what happens is we will exit. Basically, we will go to the exit while when loop subroutine, right? And we will, at that point, end the function. There's nothing to basically process at that point. There was nothing there. I mean, any code underneath here that's in here would be processed. And you're seeing that this is processed. So if this were I times I, we should go to 25. And we do. All right. I mean, that's whatever we do there will happen. So you should be aware in scope. We always go back to scope that whatever's going to happen here underneath it is going to run if there's any kind of code there, right? If we never get to it, if we just run the loop and we never meet the condition, we should just simply exit the function. And in fact, if I go back here and I don't know, make any number that's crazy enough not to be met, we only are going to run, in this case, up to 9. Right, up to 9 in this case. We're going to run, right, I is less than 10. So within this, it tells us we must be really careful when we code. Really have to be careful, right? Um, we can put in any number here. And we go out at 6 because I 7, right? We exit and we're not debug printing. So this exit function piece of code here, it ensures us we stop processing and we don't process anything that could be in any subroutine that's going to be below here. It's going to be very important when we come to setting up error trapping, which will be more in the intermediate phase of our coding. Towards the end of the intermediate, I think I want to put it there. But this is important because if we didn't have this here, it would simply run whatever we had underneath here. And for example, let's see. Now here it's going to go out because it's going to find 7. It's going to go outside of 7. I don't think it's going to run 8, and it doesn't. It simply goes from here to here. So I'm going to put 17 in here, or I'm going to enter 17 there and see what happens now. And we get to actually 10, which 10 is not a number, but it's running this because we don't have the exit function here. Now, if we were to run it without it, only 9 gets there. So you see how important it is to make sure we stop running code when we don't need it anymore. Okay? I can't tell you how important that is because you're going to run code that you don't intend to. Then you're going to have to debug it, and we're going to get into debugging in the advanced section. All right? So I feel it is advanced of coding. So you always have to have this when you have a subroutine or some kind of a routine you're going to. All right? Let's see, here's one example here, right? This is an example of a GoSub example. So what's the difference between GoSub and just GoTo? I could have had GoTo, I believe here, probably would have run it as well. But let's type in GoSub example. And the first thing it's going to do is debug print hello. Then it's going to GoSub to this one here. Hello from example sub. It's going to return back up and run goodbye. So, you notice we have a return in here. Now, coming back to this, let us do this here. I times I. Let us then put the return in to this. What's going to happen here when I run this is, and I'm going to have my 7, by the way. So if it's 7, I'm going to have 7 times 7. All right. And then I will return back up. And let's see what happens to this. And we return without GoSub. So return requires a GoSub. You can't return without that. It's a statement for GoSub. All right. To stop, we press our little square here, and we're going to remove that return message. There are ways of using that, and so here if we didn't run the return, let's see what would happen. What do you think is going to happen? Well, it's not going to go back up, right? So we should go sub example, and that's it, right? So we come down, we end it. We end the sub. When we return, we go back up and we continue the processing. What's going to happen with this return, and there's a way to do it with the GoTo, when we do error trapping, all right, it's not considered a same way. There we go. But GoSub allows this return as well. And if we did a GoTo, let's just see what would happen. Probably will error out. We'll get that error again, and yes, we do. Because when you go here, right, what happens is you need to go sub for that return statement, and we'll just get over to here, right? But you can use that return statement, by the way, go sub, to in error trapping, for example. It's quite possible, and I can show you examples of that. But you wouldn't use it here when you would do on error GoTo, and then you would have something down below here. You'd have an exit, by the way, an exit routine, and then you would have, and you see here we have the exit sub. If we didn't have the exit sub, I think we're going to error out because it's going to look for something without having a GoSub. Let's see, should error out, and it does error out. Return without GoSub here. So it's running this return, but no GoSub. And let's look at what happened, what came out. So we did the hello, uh, and we GoSub here, hello from goodbye. We returned, we came back up, goodbye, and then we ran debug print hello from example sub, and then we tried to return it, and it didn't work. So without the exit there, it continues to process the code. And that's going to be extremely important that you need to know that. Let me see if I can give you an example from another database. Just want to show you where the GoTo does have a return. I think I've got one. Hold the shift key here and go into it and go database and Visual Basic. Let's see. On error GoTo, error cancel. Yeah, oh, it's resume, not return. It's resume. Right, so not a return. It's a very different statement, and we'll see that. Um, so let's see on the resume if we come back up here. It's not a return. Return, you need a go sub. But if we, let's see, if we did a resume, WWEND, would this, question is, would this go into a never-ending loop and lock out? Well, what should happen is once it debugs, prints the I squared value, it should resume, and let's see what it does. Yeah, label not defined. So in other words, it's looking at this saying, I don't know what you want to do with this. Okay, you can't simply resume a function. Let's see if we just hit resume and see what that does. It probably will also error. No, resume without error. Okay, so the resume is part of the error coding. And so what happens is you would have it, and we'll get into that in the advanced, you would basically look for where the error happens and the resume is needed for that. So with a GoTo, you have no way of going back into it. You simply go to a subroutine, you run it, and you're done. With a GoSub, you can always return, as we saw here, return back to what I was running, okay? And let's do it down here. So in other words, I think I did this here. I think I did this. Let's see what happens. GoSub, and let's put a return here. Um, let's see what happens. And we're going to keep going until we never ending, until we stop. It's going to go forever, so what's happening here is it tries to return after it squares it, but what happens is every single time you're at 7, and it's going to keep squaring it. So this kind of one here is not good. Let's see if we can control break it or shift control break it. And okay, we just ended there. Probably going to restart, which is fine. So you can see there what happens. All right, so see if we can, whoa, restart the program. Let me restart this one too here for you. So, right, okay, so we're not going to back it up because it wants to back it up. It thinks, oh, there's a problem. We're going to cancel the backup. We're going to go into our Visual Basic. We can Alt F11 or whatever. And here, so let's go back to our, no, it's the wind. Yeah. So here, obviously, you can see here that the resume won't work. We got to get rid of that. And we're in GoTo. So we should be fine now. Compile it. So you saw what happened. So in other words, what it did is if I tried to GoSub it here, come down here, print I squared, which is 49, then return, I would come back to the same spot where I left off. All right. And I would keep going in this loop, this endless loop. So we're going to take out the, oh, it's okay, it's fine. We're going to go to the last one here in this GoSub example as to why it works. It works because after we do the GoTo here, we return, we're down here. Up here, running the GoSub here, coming back up here, it's still, and this really it's over here, all right? So it's still kind of running that. But again, the difference between GoSub and GoTo is simple. GoSub will allow you to go back into the code. GoTo will not. GoTo simply comes out of it. So let's see if we can't take this wend and make it a better. We're in a loop. That's the other thing too. Here, we're not in a loop. So that also explains why. So let us see if we can't. That one. Yeah, I don't know. I think the only way you can do it is really through something like this. Run code, GoSub, return back to the code, do something, run the code, come back, do something, and then, as I said, come back up to the code where you left off. In the when loop, I don't think there's a way, and we tried it, and what would happen would be it would continually just, well, what we could do is, let's just try this. GoSub. Then I equals I plus I. Well, now you're no longer at 7 and we can return. So here now, we should be at 8. I plus 1, I'm sorry. Is it? Yeah. I plus 1. So here, I being 7 right at this point will now be 8. I'm sorry. And when we come up to that loop again, it now is no longer 7. It should be 8. It should go to the next one and finish off. Let's see if that'll work. Let's debug and compile, and let's try it and see if it works. Wow, And there we go. So look at this. This is pretty cool. Um, just to show you it did work. So we started when we got to 6, right? We go to the next number, and 6 plus 1 is 7. When we get to 7, we go sub, we square it, we make I 8, we go up. Okay. I is now 8. It debug prints I as 8. 8 plus 1 is 9. It then debug prints I as 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. And it ends the loop. Wow. So here we can do that. But if we didn't do the I equals I plus 1, we would be going on forever. This would. So there's an example of how to use GoSub, manipulate some data, and come back to it. Really neat stuff. All right. So what we have here in the GoTo and GoSub, when will you use them? And let's just put some kind of little thing here to let us make our, oh, let's make them, there we go. So GoTo moves to subroutine, but not back. GoSub can return back to main, oops, I jumped back to main code of function or sub. So this is interesting, and this will help us when we go to design how we're going to do this in our database, how we're going to use it, right? Let me just make sure I have things. All right, so I didn't spell that right. It should be a capital S. Maybe why it's flagging it, but it's a weird word anyway. So we see here the differences between these two types of statements and how they're used. And really, I think they should be, we're going to say this or go sub, or and go sub. Both of these statements together, and so you now know how to use them and where they will be used. Save that. And so you have an ability to now manipulate data or move to, and let's quickly close this out today. When would you want to do this? When would you want to create some sort of thing here? Well, we know on error routines, error trapping is on error go to, and then you have a resume there, which is different. So the on error can have resume, can have and return, and to go back, to go back to main code of function or sub. So when we get to error trapping, let me get this over here, you will see this. Error trapping requires this, but you might have also needs in other, and I've seen clients do this. I've seen them run these kinds of statements. So why wouldn't you have this code, let's say, within your main body? Why do you think you wouldn't do that? Why couldn't you just say, well, if I equals 7, then run this up over here? I could do it. I could take this here and place it right up there without having this go sub. The reason you do it is because it cleans up code. Here I know the flow of events a little bit better. The more code I have, the more confused I can be. So it also helps to clean up code. All right, when we get back on our next video, we're going to get to different statements that aren't commonly used, but we're going to also look at some point at arrays. We saw collections, we saw things like that, and we're almost really getting there, almost done with our basic VBA coding. But I really want to within this, all right. For example, I want to code this using some basic coding as well. And what it will do is, and I've talked about this in the previous video, when you click it, you will enable all the fields that you see that are disabled above, from ISBN all the way to authors. You will make the disable the add book key. You will make the two other keys that can what are they? Oh boy, let's go and look in our design view. They are cancel and confirm. Okay. Um, those will be visible, so you can only add one book at a time. And if you decide to cancel, then you will delete everything from the temp tables. You will make the cancel and confirm invisible, and you will enable the add books authors. If you confirm, you will, in a different offshoot of that logic, you will append everything. You'll check to make sure everything is there. You validate it, which is another portion of our coding. And we may get to that. We should get to that too before we do this in our looping. We're going to show you how to loop and how to find. Um, we really have to go to arrays and the collections, and of course enumerating could be a possibility too. But it usually has to do with collections. And the collection here is the controls collection. We'll go through that one and show you how to find it and show you how to locate the items that have controls that have been tagged a certain way. It's going to be really useful for you. You're going to really like it. And I consider that, because it's simple enough, really to be in our beginner intermediate area. We're almost finished with the basics, but our first one will be, as I say, to be able to turn these things on and off, and you'll see that coding and how it works. All right, so once again, I'm the database guy. Please like and subscribe. I'm here for you, and I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, morning, night, whatever it might be. Wherever you are, have a great life, and keep with me here. I'm going to give this to you and keep going with it. So take care.